After completing my 10th class exams in 1979, my father suggested that I go and help my father's uncle and learn astrology. Mathematics being my favorite subject, I learned the calculations. My grandfather taught me how to calculate the inclinations of each planet and how to calculate the lagna and the meridian center MC, and he gave me some birth charts to draw. Thus, I learned how to draw the birth charts first and showed interest in predictions. So, my grandfather told me some predictions, some of the tips that he usually uses for predictions, and after learning those tips, I documented some of them. I verified with my father. While my father and my grandfather have laid the foundation for me to get interested in astrology, for almost a decade or 2 decades, I didn't show any interest.
Welcome to Shashikara's Astrological series. As usual, for the past 6 to 7 years, I am posting a number of videos in my YouTube channel, and which are free for most of them. And apart from that, earlier to that, I did post some scribed articles in the scribed website, and which I came to know that people are getting charged for downloading my articles. Recently, I started a website www.karraastrology.com. I'll repeat again, www.karraastrology. Karra Astrology is all one word. Karraastrology.com is my new website, and most of the information pertaining to me, whether it is in the articles in the WordPress or in Scribd or the recent YouTube presentations that had been posted in my channel, all of those are available in my website. And apart from that, I started a new paid consultation, and the payments will be when I tell what is my fees. The payment should be paid either to an orphanage in India. I will provide the address for that payment details, or to the homeless center here in New Jersey. So for those who are residing in India, they will be paying to an orphanage in Hyderabad, and for those who are residing outside India, they have to pay to a homeless center here in New Jersey. So if you are interested to get paid consultation, please visit my website and click the contact me button, and then provide all the information over there. To the extent possible, I will be responding at the most within 3 to 5 business days. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that you will like my presentations, and this is some presentation which I'm going to post it within as soon as I can. Welcome to Shashikara's Astrological series. This is the series presentation is exclusively about one particular individual. His name is Andrew Cumo. He is the New York governor here in United States. He was the governor for state of New York since 2011. Recently, that means somewhere from December of 2020, there was some sort of a sexual investigation. Complaints about sexual investigation came up, and some investigation was going on, and I found out his date of birth along with the time of birth in Astro Data Bank, and I felt that from December 2020 all the way till August 2021, I had noticed what all the changes that happened in his career with respect to the investigation, and I felt that I take this as an example and do the analysis of his birth chart, and using the best of my astrological knowledge, give the reasons why the native has gone through such a difficult time from January 2021 till August 2021. That is an analysis, and then based upon the planetary positions, I want to predict how his life career, especially his career life, will be for the remaining part of the year. That is from September of 2021 all the way till December of 2021. This is purely for astrological purposes only. So what I want you to make sure is that this is for those who wants to learn astrology, or those who are learning astrology wants to figure it out how my analysis are done. Please consider this for educational purposes only. This is my disclaimer, and I own no responsibility if any of you had taken any decision or had changed your opinions or had any sort of an impact based upon the analysis that I did in this presentation. I'm hoping that you will like this presentation too. Thank you very much and enjoy the presentation. Okay, let's me first go and do the D1 chart analysis for this particular native. The native, according to Astro Data Bank, the native was born on 6th December 1957 around 8:36 a.m. in Queens, New York. So using JHora software, here is his D1 chart. The very first thing that I usually do is to see, are there any planets that are in Rasi Sandhi? That means the inclination of any planet at the time of birth. Is there any planet whose inclination is less than 5 degrees or greater than 28 degrees? And here, the very first thing that I look is Jupiter. Jupiter is 1 degree 28 minutes in Libra. So that means it is the 11th house. So Jupiter, the most important thing you have to see is Jupiter is the Lagnadipati. The Lagnadipati is in Rasi Sandhi. So naturally, there will be some sort of a uncertainty when it comes to this particular native, and that uncertainty gets amplified when any of the malefic transit planets are in any of the malefic houses, or what we call it as the Dushtana houses from natal moon. Let me go. The next thing is, I do not see anything more than that to talk about. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, what is the Lagna? The Lagna is Sagittarius. The Lagnadipati is Jupiter. Jupiter is the first and the fourth house lord residing in the 11th house. That's a very good sign. First of all, just residing in the 11th house, first and fourth house lord residing in the 11th house, and that lord is a Jupiter, is always a good sign. Just keep, that's all we need to at this point. Next is, who is in first house? The Mercury is in the first house. Mercury is the 10th house and 7th house lord. The 7th and 10th house lord Mercury is in the first house. 10th house deals with career. So Mercury is communications, and the 7th house is not only just Kalatrasthanam, it also, you can also say it as a short-term business activities. So the native is very good in communicating professionally when it comes to any sort of business activities. And the good point here is Mercury is having a direct aspects on its own house. That's a good thing here. And the next is the second house. The second and third house lord is Venus. Sorry, is Saturn. I'm very extremely sorry. Second and third house lord is Saturn. And the 11th and the 6th house lord, 6th and 11th house lord Venus is residing in the second house. Just keep in mind, this is very important here. And Venus by default is the natural 7th house lord. Here for this particular native, Venus is the 6th house lord, and the 11th house lord is now residing in a house owned by a malefic. That's it. That's all we need to know at this point. The third house is empty, fourth is empty, the fifth house is Ketu is there, ignore it. Sixth house is moon. Sixth house is Rogasthanamo, house of debts, house for divorce, separation, all those things. The Lord, is in that house, Moon is residing. Moon is the 8th house Lord. So 8th house is secret affairs or secret dealings. So in the mind, the NATO always have some sort of a secret affair or a secret dealings, and there is always a possibility for that particular NATO to end up in some sort of a separation because the 8th house Lord is residing in the 6th house. The 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th houses, all the houses are empty. The 11th house, this is where another important. In the 11th house, you have the first house Lord Jupiter, the 12th house Lord Mars, the violent, aggressive planet Mars, and the Rahu. So in the 11th house, having Rahu in the 11th house indicates that it's going to have a direct aspect on the 5th house, and 5th house deals with the children and father. So we don't know what type of relationship he has with his children or his father at this point, because Rahu is directly looking at the 5th house and Rahu is co-joined with the 5th house Lord. But at the same time, Rahu is also co-joined with the 1st and the 4th house Lord. That's another thing we have to keep in mind, is that Rahu is also co-joined with the 1st and the 4th house Lord. That means the 1st house is Tanusthanamo, so it is very dynamic for this particular native when it comes to 1st house and the 4th house. Remember, I already told you that the 8th house Lord Moon is in the 6th house, indicating there's always a possibility for some sort of a secret dealings or secret affairs, and there's always a possibility for separation. Now Rahu is is co-joined with the 4th house Lord. 4th house is Sukhasthanamo, and also the 1st house Lord Tanusthanamo, Jupiter. So naturally, this particular native's home life environment and some sort of a dealings pertaining to some sort of a secret dealings or secret affairs pertaining to some sort of a separation, if it is with the human, or if the secret dealings are something that is pertaining to business, then it will be debts, some sort of a debts, or 6th house also deals with employment conditions, some sort of a secret dealings with respect to employment conditions. All these things will have an issue when when transit Rahu, depending upon where the transit Rahu is residing. That's very, very important here. And I already told you, Jupiter is in Rasi Sandhi. So if you think Jupiter is in the 10th house, then he's not having, he will have a minimal impact with respect to Tanusthanam and the 4th house due to Rahu. If the Jupiter is assumed to be in the 1st house, is in the 11th house, the way you see in the chart, then you're going to see a major impact in the native's home life environment, self, and a lot of other things, but because of Rahu. Then the last house is 12th house from Rashi Sandhi. 12th house Lord is Mars. That's another disadvantage here. Mars being the 12th house Lord is not a good sign in general for any native, male or female. It's not the point. And in the 12th house, what you see is the 9th house Lord Sun and the 2nd and 3rd house Lord Saturn are co-joined. Keep in mind, Sun and Saturn are the bitter enemies. So the two enemies are residing in the same house. Indicates that they keep fighting all the time, and one will try to spoil the house of the owned by the other. So here, if you look between look at the Graha Yuddha, by default, Saturn is always the winner in any sort of a Graha Yuddha or planetary warfare. So now here, Saturn is now co-joined with its bitter enemy Sun. So for sure, Saturn is going to spoil the bhava or the characteristics of the house owned by Sun. First of all, Sun means leadership or being a leader. So Saturn will always try to find out a way so that he can spoil the leadership when he is a leader, or when he is having any leadership responsibilities. Saturn will always try its level best to spoil it. Second, Sun is the ninth house lord. Ninth house is Dharmasthanamu and Bhagyasthanamu. So second house is Dhanasthanamu and Kutumbasthanamu. So for sure, Saturn will always make sure that something pertaining to Bhagyasthanamu, wealth, or Dharmasthanamu, ethics, something will be spoiled for this particular native that is directly related to Dharmasthanamu or Bhagyasthanamu, that is natal Saturn. So you see here. And then when we look at the aspects of these three important planets and we will have a better idea of how these planets, when they are aspecting, not only just co-joining, when they are aspecting, how are they having an impact on this particular native's overall life. Now let's go and look at the natal planet, what you call the natal Saturn's aspects. This is very important here because we are looking at some of the crucial planets while doing the detailed analysis, of which generally as I look at the most malefic planets here, Saturn is one of them. If you look at it, Saturn has three aspects. It has the third aspect, seventh, and the 10th aspect. So natal Saturn is residing in Scorpio. Its third aspect is on the second house that it owns, and it is aspecting the 11th and the 7th house lord, 6th house lord Venus. So it is aspecting the 11th and the 6th house lord Venus. That's the first thing. So there you go. How powerful Saturn is when it comes to the 6th house, the 11th house, and the 12th house. Of course, the BSP rule says that wherever Saturn is, he shouts that he's the owner of that house. So apart from owning the second and third houses, he's shouting that he also owns the 12th house. And now Saturn's direct aspect is on the 6th house. 6th house from Rashi Lagna, which is owned by Mars. See, owned by Venus. Saturn is residing in the house owned by Mars. It is having a direct aspect on its third aspect is on its own house where the 6th and the 11th house lord Venus is residing. Now Saturn is having a direct aspect on Venus, house owned by Venus, where the 8th house lord Moon is residing. So 8th house always talks about secret affairs and secret dealings, and Moon being the mind and Saturn being a malefic planet, Saturn always tries to create some sort of a unfortunate thoughts in the native's mind when it comes to secret affairs and secret dealings. That's for sure. Then Saturn's third another aspect is on the 10th house from its natal position, which is the 10th house itself from Rashi Lagna. Okay, 12, 11, 10. Yes, and the 10th house lord from Rashi Lagna is, the 9th house from Rashi Lagna, the lord is Sun. So Saturn's 10th aspect is on its enemy's house, Sun, which is the Dharmasthana-adipati, and that Sun, natal Sun, is co-joined with natal Saturn. And according to planetary warfare, for sure Saturn is going to win the war. So that means now Saturn not only owns the second and third houses, it is shouting that it owns the 12th house because that's where it is residing. And now it is using its 10th aspect. It is looking at the 9th house, Dharmasthanamu, and because it is his enemy's house, and because in the planetary warfare he had defeated his enemy's Sun, he yells that he also owns the 9th house. And another important thing is the 6th and the 11th house lord Venus is residing in the house owned by Saturn, and Saturn's third aspect is on that house. So if you look at this particular chart, this chart is extremely unique from an astrological perspective, because only one planet is now ruling so many houses. The second house, the third house, the 6th house, the 9th house, the 11th house, and the 12th house. So Saturn is ruling the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 9th, 11th, sorry, 9th and 12th houses, almost 4 or 5 houses. It is 1, 2, 3 plus 2, 5 houses. It is now ruling 5 houses. And so when the Saturn Mahadasa comes into picture, or any planets Mahadasa like Venus, Moon, Sun, these are the 3 important planets, Venus, Moon and Sun. Any of these 3 Mahadasas comes in and Saturn's Antardasa come into picture, that's when this particular native's life will have a major noticeable change. And that might deal with either the 12th house, which is unexpected expenditures, hospitalization or imprisonment, the 2nd house, which is Dhanasthanamo and Kutumbasthanamo, the 6th, 3rd house, which is relationship with the brothers, and then the 6th house, debts, illnesses and employment conditions, the 9th house, which is Dharmasthanamo and Bhagyasthanamo. Overall, this chart itself tells you that if you look at one particular planet, is enough to tell how the native's life will be whenever there is a Saturn Mahadasa or a Saturn Antaradasa, and the Mahadasas being some of any planet that has a direct relationship with Saturn. After completing the Saturn natal Saturn's aspects analysis, let me go and look at the Vimsottari Dasa. And if you look at it, remember I said that Saturn Mahadasa will have a major impact in this particular native's life. The Saturn Mahadasa started in 2007. Okay. And if you look at in his history, he became the New York governor on 1st January 2011. That means during the Saturn Mahadasa is when this particular native had a chance to become the ruler of, or become the leader for a state. That is, it's similar to the king. That's what they call it here. Now let's go and see what made this Saturn to do it. Remember, Saturn is co-joined with Sun, the leader in general, and he's the 9th house lord, and Saturn is now controlling the so many houses, and that might be one of the reason why he became the leader in 2011. And since then, see, the Saturn Antarada Mahadasa ends in 2026. So if things goes well, he will be the governor all the way till 2026 January. Because till the whole Saturn Mahadasa, he will be in a leadership position, because Saturn is the one that is controlling his whole chart or his whole life. Unfortunately, if you look at it, Rahu Antardasa started in 2020 September, and it will be there for almost like 3 years, right? 2023 July. That means almost for 3 years, Rahu Antardasa started. Keep in mind, when Saturn Mahadasa is running, a Rahu Antardasa is always creates unexpected events, and that might lead into some unexpected outcomes for sure. So let's go and look at, first of all, when Rahu Antardasa started. We know the natal Rahu is in the 11th house, co-joined with the 1st and the 4th house lord Jupiter, Tanusthanadipati and Sukasthanadipati. And he's in the 11th house. 11th house is house of desires and financial gains or financial losses. So the minute the Rahu has Antardasa started, there is a lot of possibilities that can happen for this particular native, in the particular native's life. Number one, the Tanusthanadipati and Sukasthanadipati, because it co-joined with Jupiter, there might be some sort of a disturbances for this particular native self, pertaining to his self. And then the 4th house is home life environment. So there might be some sort of a disturbances pertaining to his home life environment. That's the first possibility. Second, Rahu is also co-joined with Mars. Mars is the 12th and 5th house lord. 12th house is unexpected expenditures and hospitalization and imprisonment. So Rahu might, and 5th house is children. So there might be some sort of an unexpected events that are directly related to his children, number one, or to him pertain that is resulting in unexpected expenditures, hospitalization, or imprisonment. Something like that is what is directly showing here with respect to Rahu. This is, we are talking about the natal Rahu still. And then comes what are the sub periods. If you look at the investigation, the sex scandal details, I just got all this from the internet. The sex scandal details, its investigation or whatever that basic stuff that they do is, it started in December 2020. If you December 2020 means it's Rahu Antardasa and Rahu Pratyantaradasa. See, that has created some sort of a, that is for the first house and the fourth house is Sukhasthanamo and Tanusthanamo. So that Rahu Pratyantaradasa is the one that has created some sort of a disturbances pertaining to himself and pertaining to his home life environment. That might be because of this investigation. And then comes the most important here is the New York attorney investigation started in last day of February 2021, that is 28th February 2021. So that is Jupiter Pratyantaradasa, Rahu Antardasa and Jupiter Pratyantaradasa. So whatever the Rahu Pratyantaradasa had initiated, whatever it has initiated, the Jupiter Pratyantaradasa, it got amplified because first house lord is Jupiter, the fourth house lord is Jupiter, and Jupiter is co-joined with Rahu. This is all the natal planets I'm talking. And then comes impeachment investigation started on 11th March 2021. So 11th March, if I go all the way down, June. Oh, 11th March 2021 means if you are still having the Jupiter Anta Pratyantaradasa. And then came the most worst part is the Saturn Pratyantaradasa, which started in June 2021, or I should say it as July 2021. And if you look at it on 3rd August, it became public. The attorney, New York Attorney General has released the public statement about the investigation report. That it was on 3rd August. That's exactly Saturn Pratyantaradasa, Saturn Mahadasa, Rahu Antardasa, and Saturn Pratyantaradasa is the time when this particular news became public, means the investigation report came out. And if you look at it, Saturn Pratyantaradasa is all the way till the end of December 2021. So a lot of things can happen in these 6 months. That means from June 2021 till December of 2021, because of the Saturn Pratyantaradasa, Saturn Mahadasa, and Rahu Antaradasa, a lot of things can happen for this particular native. So let's wait and see what exactly is going to happen for this native during that period. From an astrological perspective, I'm going to do my predictions. Now that I mentioned that the Saturn Mahadasa, Rahu Antardasa, and Saturn Pratyantaradasa, which started in June 2021 and will end in December 2021, I mentioned that a lot of things will happen during this period. Let's go in detail and look at the Sukshmantardasas and which planets are Sukshmantardasas are running and what are the possible things that can happen. These are just my predictions based upon the astrological knowledge that I have it. First of all, we know that somewhere in August or 3rd August, that is, where is it? First of all, July, August. On 3rd August, the need to multiple harassment report investigation at New York Attorney's investigation report was released on 3rd of August. Give a plus or minus 2 days here. And then if you look at it, that will be the Mercury Sukshmantardasa. Mercury is in the first house. Look at it. Mercury is in the first house and it is the Lord of the 10th house. So the first house, the 7th and the 10th house Lord Mercury is residing in the first house owned by Jupiter, and Saturn, which is in the 12th house, We know, there is a BSP rule that says wherever Saturn resides, he spoils the house next to his residence, and which is the first house. So he's trying to spoil the first house. That's what you can see here. Saturn Mahadasa came and he spoiled the native's first house and the fourth house thoroughly, especially the first house. And the primary leaf, the first house, and secondary, the fourth house. And because Saturn was trying to spoil the fourth house, the first house, which is next to his residence, the 10th house lord Mercury, who is residing there, is having an issue over there, and it might be Sukshmantara Dasa. Mercury Sukshmantara Dasa is when the report came out. Remember, a report is nothing but some sort of a communication, and Mercury is the 10th house lord, and Mercury deals with communications. So the communications pertaining to native's career, something really pertaining to the native's career, was released during the Mercury Sukshmantara Dasa, which is between July 24th to August 17th. So let's wait before August 17th, what more can happen pertaining to the communication side, which has a direct relationship to the native's career. And then I should say that for 10 days, it will be calm before the storm. The 10 days that will be calm is from 17th July till 17th August till 28th of August. Those 10 days, it will be calm, because calm before the storm. Venus Sukshmantara Dasa starts on August 27th, and September 24th, it ends. This is the time where the allegations that were documented by New York attorney will get more complicated, or more details will be released, and the allegations gets more strength against the native. And if you look at it, Venus, the natal Venus is in the house owned by Saturn. And when you look at the transit, natal Saturn's third aspect is on Venus, and the transit Saturn is currently residing in that house. So natal Venus is co-joined with transit Saturn. Natal Venus is getting the third aspect from natal Saturn. Saturn Mahadasa is running, and then Saturn Pratyantara Dasa is running, and Venus Sukshmantara Dasa during that time. That means from 28th of August all the way till 25th of September, that 1 month period will be extremely complicated for this particular native, because there will be a lot of allegations that were already then, they get strengthened. And then comes the crucial period for this particular native is the Sun Sukshmantara Dasa, which is from September 24th till October 2nd. And again, the Moon Sukshmantara Dasa, which is in October 2nd till October 16th. So I would say that from September 24th all the way till October 16th is the time when the native will be either forced to lose the leadership position, or activity gets initiated which might result in the loss of his leadership position. But for sure, when Rahu Sukshmantara Dasa starts, which is October 25th to November 18th, for sure whatever the activities that were happened during the Sun and the Moon Sukshmantara Dasa will be amplified, and by 10th of December, I'm fully confident that this native will no more be the leader for the state. These are all my astrological predictions, and let me wait and see what exactly will happen. Let me go and have a quick look at the native's chart and the transit planets position. Remember, first of all, let's see where are the most crucial transit planets is Saturn and Jupiter and Rahu. These three are most crucial because they are the slow moving transit planets. Transit Saturn is going to be in Capricorn, which is the second house from Rashi Lagna, and the ninth house from Chandra Lagna. Keep in mind, the 9th house from Chandra Lagna and the 2nd house from Rashi Lagna, transit Saturn is going to be there all the way till December 2022. So it is going to co-join with Venus, the 6th house lord, natal Venus, the 6th house lord, and natal Saturn's third aspect is on now the transit Saturn, and the Mahadasa that will be running for this particular native is again Saturn. So now, like I said during the D1 chart analysis, Saturn is how powerful the Saturn was, natal Saturn was, I explained, and now the transit Saturn became a catalyst to this natal Saturn, and the Saturn Mahadasa is going to show amazing changes in this particular native's life. Then comes transit Jupiter. Transit Jupiter is going to co-join with transit Saturn from April of 2021 till September of 2021, and somewhere in October of 2021 transit Jupiter will go to Aquarius. Okay, now the question comes is what is going to happen? If you look at it, the natal's chart, transit Jupiter entered co-joined with transit Saturn in April of 2021, and the attorney's investigation started in February. That is when what you call transit Jupiter is in Aquarius, but the impeachment investigation happened just when transit Jupiter was about to join transit Saturn in Capricorn, and in August transit Jupiter is still co-joined with transit Saturn, and the New York attorney's investigation report was released exactly when transit Jupiter and transit Saturn are co-joined in Capricorn, and they are having a co-joined with natal Venus, which is the 6th house lord. 6th house is employment conditions, and natal Saturn is having a third aspect on this house too. So the transit Saturn and transit Jupiter played a vital role here. And then comes the most important is transit Rahu. Because Rahu Antaradasa is running under Saturn Mahadasa, I just tried to have a quick look at where is transit Rahu during this period. In September 2020, transit Rahu entered Taurus. That means the 6th house from Rashi Lagna, where the 8th house lord Moon is residing. Oh gosh. The 8th house lord is Moon, and transit Rahu has just co-joined with the 8th house lord Moon, the mind. This happened in September 2020, and if you look at his the news, the sex scandal investigation started in December 2020. Oh gosh, see how transit Rahu has played such a vital role for this particular native that has a direct relationship with the secret affairs, secret dealings, and employment conditions. Keep in mind, Moon is in the 6th house, that's employment conditions. And natal Saturn is having a direct aspect on natal Moon on the 6th house, because natal Saturn is residing in the 12th house. So now natal Saturn is having a direct aspect on transit Rahu too since September 2020. Oh gosh, this itself is enough to tell that how complicated the native's career will be. Career or employment conditions will be since September of 2020. Now transit Rahu is going to stay there for 1.5 years. That means during the Rahu Antaradasa, which is going to complete in somewhere in 2023 or something like that. At that time, until that time, for sure, transit Rahu is going to complete in 2023 July. So for sure, transit Rahu is going to be there, co-joined with natal Moon, having a direct aspect from natal Saturn, for sure. So until that point, until the Rahu Pratyantara Antaradasa is completed, this native will be having and will be facing a lot of unexpected events, which has a direct relationship to employment conditions, which has some sort of a relationship with the secret affairs or secret dealings, and which has, because Saturn is in the 12th house, that's very important here. Okay, first Saturn is in the 12th house, and Sun is also in the 12th house. Sun is Dharmasthanamo. So those secret affairs, secret dealings, or employment condition, whatever the mishap that the NATO is going to face, will have all will be against the dharma, because the dharma sthanadipati Sun is co-joined with the malefic planet and its bitter enemy Saturn, and because they are in the 12th house, that will lead into unexpected expenditures. And in general for any NATO, I would say, keeping aside this particular NATO's political strength and the influence and the social status, if the NATO is a common man, I would say that it will lead to unexpected expenditures, hospitalization, and imprisonment too. So unexpected expenditures, we don't know what is going to happen. Hospitalization, if something like this does happen, the media is there to tell. And the imprisonment, the same thing goes there. So this Saturn Mahadasa, Rahu Antaradasa, and precisely Saturn Sukshmantaradasa, which is somewhere, give me a minute, I will tell you when is the Saturn Sukshmantaradasa, is June 27 till December 2021. Sorry, June 2021, June till December 2021. That means these 6 months, it will be amazingly challenging for this particular NATO from a variety of sides of his life. And 99.9%, I would say it is primarily due to transit Saturn residing in the Capricorn and co-joining with the 6th house Lord Venus, natal Saturn having a direct aspect with transit Rahu co-joining with the 8th house Lord Moon in the 6th house, and above all, transit Rahu is having a direct aspect on the 12th house, where the 9th house Lord Sun, Dharmasthanadipati, and the leadership, the Sun is directly related to leadership when it comes to career. So let's wait and see what exactly can happen or will happen to this particular NATO before December of 2021. Thank you for watching this particular video. Let me conclude this presentation for this particular NATO, that starting June of 2021 all the way till December of 2021, those 6 months will be extremely crucial for this particular NATO, which has a directly the NATO's particular NATO's life, which will have a direct relationship or impact on employment conditions, dharmasthanamo, ethics, secret dealings or secret affairs, sukhasthanamo means home life environment, and above all, the unexpected expenditures and hospitalizations. So the 6th house, because of the planetary positions, the NATOs will be going through a lot of mental stress, mental anxiety, and that might lead into some sort of a health related issues too, and may end up in having an unexpected expenditures. Overall, the chances for this particular NATO, I'm telling you, it's just a chances for this particular NATO to continue to be the leader of this state, New York, after December 2021 is extremely close to zero. So what is going to happen between June of 2021 and December of 2021 is completely unexpected. I'm hoping that you like this presentation. Please use this presentation for educational purposes only. And thank you very much for watching my video. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.